Make sure you check out our sponsor over at 714 Tickets. They take pride in providing their customers with transparent pricing and excellent service. With 714 Tickets, you don't have to worry about hidden fees or surprises at checkout. The price you see is the price you pay. Plus, their team is dedicated to ensuring that you have the best shopping experience possible. And as a special thank you, they're offering a 10% discount on your purchase as well as entering you in a drawing for a free Halos jersey. Also, 5% cash back on your purchase. Only when you use the promotional code HAITI at checkout. That's HITI, HAITI. Get ready to shop with confidence and discover great deals today over at 714 Tickets.
Welcome to the Around the League show here on Halos in the Infield, and I'm happy to be accompanied by Todd Fox. You know him, of course, doing the post-game show, the regular Haiti podcast, also known as Halo Honk, at the ballpark on select Saturdays.
Number 69 in your hearts.
I'll let you say that number, sure. Normally JT would be here, but I guess I'm in for him today. We had some interesting things happen in the MLB while we were at a 3-game series in Texas. But Todd, how are you?
I'm doing good. The show's presented by 714 Tickets, as you saw the intro there. And thank you, James, for having me on for another episode of Around the League. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff going on with not just Around the League, but a little bit touch news and notes here with the Angels, as you know, that is our home team here. So with that being said, James, the floor is yours.
Well, if we do talk about the Angels first, let's quickly talk about, they swept St. Louis there in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Some well-pitched games the first two, and then sort of a blowout 11-7 in St. Louis. It was funny because I, passed out in the middle of the game. All of a sudden I woke up, it's 11-7. Like, what the hell's going on here? Mm-hmm. The Angels held on, and St. Louis we'll get to later, but they're struggling right now, and the Angels played them at the right time. Then the weekend series happened with Texas, and game one didn't get off to a great start. They had a rally. Chad Wallach had a big hit. Luis Rengifo had a big hit. And then Anthony Rendon in extra innings, all he had to do was look at the first pitch go by. And then Neto scored on the wild pitch or pass ball, whatever the ruling was. And then the next 2 days happened. Oh, man, it was horrible. 10-1, Texas won, flexed their muscles there. And then they won it seconds, and they defeat the Angels, 18-6, I want to say it was, on
16-8.
16-8, yeah, it felt like 18 on Sunday, and we were in attendance for all three, and we had 2 position players pitch in one of those games, or both of those games.
Both of those games, yeah. I had told you afterwards I'd never seen it live. I've always seen it on TV, and then to go to an entire series and see it back-to-back games, I was like, wow, we are getting pulverized.
We never want to be on that side. We want to be on the other side.
Exactly.
It reminded me of, the Reed Detmers no-hitter game, and Brett Phillips, who pitched in the Saturday game, came in. But there's some news with the Angels. So Chad Wallach has a neck issue. He's out, 7-day IL. Who came up? The
catcher.
Jimmy Herget came up from Salt Lake City today. Quijada got the Tommy John. Who was it? Warren got the Tommy John as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So unfortunately, those two.
And Suarez is down for about a month with inflammation.
That's what it was. Yeah. So a lot of pitching changes are happening. You mentioned, what did you mention just before?
The catcher, his first name is escaping me, but his last name is literally okay. Yeah, Oki, whatever.
Yeah, so he only batted 125 up in Salt Lake City, I believe, this year. So he was on the taxi squad on Monday night, and then he was ready to go tonight, and he's behind the plate pitching or catching Shohei tonight. So that's pressure.
Oh yeah.
He was he was with the Reds handful of games last year and before that, but not much major league experience. Just like the pitcher that they called up, but now they designated him for assignment, Valdez. I want to say his name was Cesar Valdez. But still, Seth would probably take the role of Suarez, you would think. Let's say Angels go out and get a free agent or trade for somebody. It's a lot going on with the Angels, especially with their catching. And then maybe Jared Walsh will be, taking in some simulated games and playing in them. Maybe that's what I heard from Sam Blum, among other things. But all this is going on for the Angels in their 2016 second place. They're 2 games back of
Texas.
And they keep winning. In Seattle yesterday, they had a great pitchers game. We'll get to that. But Todd, man, it's been just things keep going on and on with this team injury wise with the Angels, and it's hard for someone to put a lineup together, a rotation together, and then a bullpen together with all these changes. So how do you feel about all this with the Angels so far?
I'm hoping it's like only temporary. I'm hoping it's one of those things where all these injuries get done now, whether, as far as, getting the injuries out of the way. Obviously, you don't like the Tommy John stuff. That's not going to clear itself up by the end of the year. But what I mean is, like, if you're going to lose some guys to the IL, you much rather have your injuries now in the upfront in the season. And if you're able to weather that storm and any other kind of slumps going on in the lineup or in the bullpen, let's figure things out as we move on. And then you'll see, hey, man, we got through the roughest patch. And hopefully the second half of the season, you're able to be strong because, again, we don't know when Stassi's coming back, but if he comes back, that helps with catching depth because it's at the lowest we've seen it. Because at one time we had 4 strong catchers, or at least 4 catchers that are capable. We're down to 1. And the one we got right now is raking at 300. Thaiss, who would have thought? But yeah, I mean, you want to weather this storm right now, get the bullpen squared away. They've been pitching a little bit better lately, so hopefully Herget can come back and pitch like he did last year, and that would just be another important arm to help stretch this bullpen out a bit.
Yeah, that is some unfortunate things going on with the Angels. Just seeing if there's any more news, but I think we covered it all. So to get into the topics around the league, not only just Angels, but it has an Angel in this. Shohei Ohtani emerged right now as the early favorite as MVP in the American League, just running by some of his numbers.
Mm-hmm.
He's hitting 301. He's 4-0 his record wise. My computer's
should be 6-0.
6 yeah. There was a lot of games where his run support wasn't there. He has walked a lot, but he struck out 58, 59 batters.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been really good with that. The power, I mean, the home runs haven't been there lately, but he tattooed a ball on Monday night. I mean, you could hear it. It sounded like a home run, and it almost went. But he's been raking, and then he's been pitching very well. It's something that, is good for him and his agent, as they both are talking about wanting a $525 million deal. Now, I don't know if the Angels would do that. I know I've been wanting to ask you that since I heard that. So right now, he has 6 home runs, or 7 home runs, it looks like. Like I said, the pitching is there. You said he's 4-0, some hard luck starts, and then 1 rained out start in Boston, if you remember, on that Monday, Patriots Day. We were up early for that. So how do you feel about Shohei's 2-part question? How do you feel about Shohei's performance so far? And then also, do you think Artie Moreno would spend that much money for one player, the $525 million, for Shohei to keep him in Anaheim?
If they're saying a base price, or like at least a 525 as a starting, it would take about 550 to get him signed. I think if Artie's going to do it, if he really thinks that he's going to win, and it's all that unfinished business bull crap he was talking about when he wanted to be the owner again, then put your money where your mouth is. This guy will pay for himself. 550, yeah, it's $500 million. But dude, I'm telling you, he will pay for himself. He's a two-way player. I mean, look, last year was an atrocity. Even with Aaron Judge hitting all those homers, he's a one-trick pony. You know, to me, the perfect storm had to happen last year for Shohei to get robbed of an MVP back to back. And that was some guy going crazy and nuts with home runs. And that's what it was with Judge. And not only that, you had to be in a big market, and he was in New York. So you have the New York bias and all the media over there. So, yeah, they weren't going to give Shohei the freaking MVP. It was atrocity that they gave it to some jerk that, again, they didn't. It's not like he helped his team win a World Series last year. Yankees were punked once again. That's just my take. I don't like Aaron Judge. I don't like the Yankees. But I will say this. Nobody is come close, even with Shohei not having the power numbers right now. He's going to have the RBIs. He will have the power numbers. He'll have 40 or 50 by the end of the year. You're not going to touch him pitching wise. He might just win the Cy Young and the MVP this year.
Yeah, he's been amazing. The only thing, like, okay, if I'm non-biased here, right? Okay, Judge broke the all-time American League home run record. So I think people have to put that, into focus for him winning the award last year. Of course, we don't think so here on the West Coast, but
well, I put a ring pop on that because, like, just how I did the Lakers COVID championship, because you're hitting in a ballpark that is hitter friendly all the time. And you couple that with your trips to Boston, the uneven schedule, and you had Baltimore before they fixed their fences and all that stuff. I mean, he's been given. I mean, there's a reason why Judge didn't want to sign in San Francisco, because, oh my God, that's a harder place to hit. Dodger Stadium, that's a harder place to hit. San Diego, harder place to hit. To me, he showed his true colors in the offseason. Barry Bonds, what he did in Frisco, I mean, come on. And in National League, harder ballparks, that to me gets more credit than Aaron Judge. I think that's where we disagree right there. I don't give Judge much credit. I'm sorry.
We disagree.
Yeah, I think so. Unless you were saying Judge earned it.
I thought he did, but I know that wouldn't be a popular take on the Heady postgame show. But
mine isn't either.
I was quietly thinking that, on the show last year when all that MVP talk was going on, it was like, but he broke the record, and they're in the playoffs, and I can understand why Judge didn't leave. By the way, why would you leave? You can have all the, advertising money. You can do all this from New York. Why would you leave the biggest market? I remember when Judge was supposedly the night before, the Giants were going to have him, and the Padres trying to step in since he was in the building, tried to sign him there in San Diego when the meetings were going on. And I thought, why would you leave New York? There's no way he's going to leave. Excuse me. So the other National League, the other MVP candidate right now, at least the leader to me, is Ronald Acuna Jr. He had that monster series against the Mets. The Braves lead the Mets in first place by 7 games. Right now, Acuna is 6 home runs. He is hitting 345, which really helped. He's the butter and egg man, definitely in the lineup. We saw him Sunday, of course, do some work, and he had that great throw from right field to throw someone out, an Oriole out at third base. That was a Clemente throw in my mind, but excuse me, when he's healthy, he's awesome. When he's injured, the Braves suffer, but he's awesome. And I really like Ronald Acuna Jr. Hopefully the Braves have him for a while. But when you're hitting 345, when your team is doing well, maybe it's a product of having a lot of great hitters around you like they do. I mean, that whole lineup is stacked, and Acuna Jr., I guess, is the main guy because of the flashiness, but this guy gets it done. So, what do you think about Ronald Acuna Jr. being the emerging candidate right now for the National League?
Well, if he stays healthy, I know he's had he had an injury last year that kind of set him down for a good while. He's a terrific hitter. What they've built there in Atlanta is something to marvel at. They are definitely World Series contenders. They have lineups, a good bullpen, a good rotation. Like you said, a hell of good lineup. They are what the Mets aspired to be and what they are not. And I like what the Braves are doing. Acuna, like you said, that they're much like if the Angels had a roster like that you could look to Acuna and be like, well, as long as Acuna's leading the team in something, that's how the rest of the team will follow. And his average is getting on. He's maybe not doing the power numbers, but he doesn't have to. And so, like the same thing here, if the supporting cast can support Trout and Ohtani, Trout and Ohtani are going to be the ones that lead this team to the promised land or get them into the postseason. It's how they go. And Acuna and other leaders on that team like Olsen, if they're hitting, man, that team is going to be difficult to reckon with. And so far, so good. So yeah, I'll agree with you on this one. I do like him for early lead in the National League MVP vote.
Yeah, he's one of those exciting players for sure. So the next topic I want to get to, Shane McClanahan. He's been awesome for the Rays this year.
Mm-hmm.
He went to 7-0 his win-loss record. The Rays, as they continue to do what they do, they blanked the Orioles yesterday, or Monday, I should say. And I was trying to find the score for now, but
well, at the time, time they're beating a
Orioles
team.
won.
Go ahead.
Oh no, the Orioles won today though, 4-2. But this series between these two teams, the Rays and Orioles, when I look at this real quick, the Rays, with a Rosarena, he's awesome. He's batting .321. He has 30 RBIs. Yandy Diaz, he's a great power hitter, their first baseman. He has 9 home runs already. Wander Franco has 44 hits. I think those 4 in the lineup, when they put those out in order, 1 through 4, that's the best lineup in the major leagues of those top 4. I really think that they're awesome. McClanahan, he slipped 4 in the 4th inning yesterday. He fell down, but he got back up and he went out and pitched better as he went on. And he's been doing that since last year. And I remember he came up in 2020 as well, and he did so awesome. So yeah, the Rays, they have the best record here at now. It's 20. Oh, what is it? 29-8. And they were facing the Orioles, who are 23-13. Those are the 2 best in the AL. So what do you think about McClanahan and the Rays and what they're doing so far?
The Rays, it's funny because the first week or two, I think we got into it on the sports show here with JT, and also like talking between me and you and the other Angel people here on Heedy. And we were saying, well, yeah, they played Kansas City, they played Oakland, they played Chicago. We want to see what they do against other teams. Well, every team that's been put in front of them since has gotten the same treatment. They've shut down some good offenses. Like you said, Baltimore is nothing to be, scoffed at. Baltimore lost 2 of 3 in extra innings to Atlanta. They went toe-to-toe with them in a really good 3-game series over the weekend. And then they turn around and played heads up with them and barely lost yesterday against McClanahan, who's now 7-0. And then they beat him today. So again, they're over 10 games over 500. Baltimore's a good team, like you said. The Rays are on a really nice pace. The fans there in Tampa are there early this year. They've actually opened up the top deck. Rosarena is by far, outside of Shohei and Trout, the most exciting ball player. I mean, his charisma alone from the WBC onward has just gotten him to be one of the more popular baseball players, and I love it. I want to see more of this type of flashiness, and you know what? Credit him the other day when they were taking on the Yankees, and he hit that home run. He posed at third, he posed at home, and he posed in the freaking dugout. But that's what you want. An old school Boone hit him not once, but twice. And I thought it was unfair that the umpires warned both benches. They should have tossed or warned somebody for the Yankees only. And I thought it was great restraint by the Rays to not fire back, but it's going to add to that rivalry between the two. And the last laugh went to the Rays because they swept the Yankees. And I thought that was awesome. What professionals they have down there in Tampa, and they are an early favorite as well for representing the AL. They're an exciting team down there.
I just want them to keep players around. I know they've done that with a couple of players. I want them to get a new ballpark and closer. And actually, in the city of Tampa, I think that would help things out because getting to St. Petersburg from Tampa seems like a you know what. I mean, I've seen where they have to cross the toll bridge, and then where they play Tropicana Field isn't really a good neighborhood. It's like industrial and kind of run down.
Well, not only that, if you have bad weather and hurricanes, because we are in the hurricane season, that gets completely cut off. Because it's down there by the Keys, man. So you're cut off from civilization. That's why it would have been better had they been closer inland, as you said, for sure.
Yeah, I just want them closer to their true fan base. I think that would be awesome. You can see they packed in the Trop. They had what I want to say 34,000 on Sunday's game, and I'm looking like, wait, that's playoff like. That is crazy. So you mentioned the Rays and how their schedule went at the beginning. Then they played some real opponents, so to speak, and they fared well. We talked about the Orioles, and like I told you on Sunday morning, they're one of my favorite teams to watch. Like I have the MLB.TV package, courtesy of T-Mobile, so I'm able to watch whenever I can. But okay, the Orioles. So look at this. They finish up with the Rays on Wednesday, the 10th. And then they get a day off. And then the Pirates come in for 3. The Pirates are 21-15. Like, who the hell saw that coming? And then the Angels go to Baltimore. The Angels, of course, 4 games above 500. And then the Orioles have to go to Toronto, who are above them in the standings just by a game or two, or just by 1 game now. And then they have to go to the Bronx.
Oh, yeah.
And then they come home to face the Rangers as well, and then Cleveland. So you thought the Angels had a tough schedule here in May. The Orioles have a tougher one, and that's because of their division. Right now, everybody's at 500 in the division. Even the last place Yankees are 2 games above 500, I believe. So the Orioles, man, they're having a go of it, but they're lasting in this crazy division and all these wildcard teams. But another topic I wanted to get to, so Wilson Contreras, of course, we saw him against the Angels last week, and he bugged the hell out of me because he kept taking his time to lock eyes with the pitcher so the pitcher can get started. And that was really pissing me off. And you could tell Chad Wallach didn't like it. And he kept doing it throughout the series against, Sandoval, against Otani, against Caddick, I believe it was. So he's one of those guys. He'll piss you off. He's flamboyant like that. But yesterday, the 8th of May, he came back to play the Cubs, his former team. And it's always odd because Jason Hayward did the same thing, where he was a Cub for a long time, and they end up being a Cardinal. There's these little connections. Like Lou Brock was traded from the Cubs to the Cardinals. Whoops. Bruce Sutter was another guy who made that trip for both teams. But Wilson Contreras, I read he was somewhat nervous about the reception. He has some cheers and boos because you don't go to a rival, your rival like that. I know I'm thinking of like Johnny Damon doing that. There's all these different players in their history, but it was odd because Contreras was welcoming the boos as he got a single in his first at bat. And he's always edgy and emotional. I've always noticed about Contreras. He's a fiery guy. He would get thrown out. He would yell at the opposing catcher. A lot of times you'll see these compilations on YouTube, and it's like fiery guys or anger issues, and Contreras is in all of these videos. The Cardinals did win for once, 3-1 over the Cubs. I think they're on a 3-game winning streak. But I think that's always awkward to go back to the team you used to play for and it's your biggest rival. And I wondered, what your thoughts on that, and if you ever went to a game where maybe a former Angel came back and the reception for him, was there anybody like that where there was cheers or boos? You know,
There was cheers. I remember when Napoli first came back, although he was playing for Texas, and then he would just kill us.
yeah,
There was a couple other players like that. I can't remember offhand. I remember Jim Abbott got a nice reception when I saw him come in as a Yankee. Chuck Finley got nice reception. As far as someone getting booed that was on our team before, I can't really remember one.
Oh, okay. I remember Jose Guillen in 05
Oh,
when
yeah,
the
yeah,
Nationals came. I was
Yes.
at that game where there was the pitch, or the both managers went out to go check each other's or the opponent's pitchers, and
Mhm.
Frank Robinson and Socia got into it, and then Guillen, of course, got into it with Brendan Donnelly.
Oh,
But
yeah,
they were
yeah,
all
yeah.
separated or whatever. But I was sitting down the right field line, like, what the hell's going on? I was like 14, 15 years old. I didn't know what the hell was going on. Everybody just congregated around home plate. But I remember that reception because remember the Gann situation. He got hit in Toronto and he wanted someone to retaliate, and they didn't. And Socia was the main guy saying, hey, we don't do that. And Guillen, that relationship was severed there.
Yeah, and then
And
it carried
Brendan
over.
Donnelly, yeah, it definitely did. And we went on to Seattle, and there was still animosity against each other. But, Contreras, like I mentioned, he was a big part of that Cubs team that won in 2016 and years after that, even though they didn't make the playoffs all that much.
I
It's
mean,
always an awkward thing.
he's always been this awkward, like you said, temperamental guy. But I think what's going to amp it up here in St. Louis is not only did he sign a big contract to be there for a while, but you're following up Yadier Molina, a guy who's been a staple for nearly 20 years. It usually doesn't go good for the guy who follows a legend, unless you're a legend yourself. So he's trying to make his imprint there in St. Louis however he can. But that kind of baseball, that kind of mentality doesn't play good in St. Louis. St. Louis likes their Goldschmidts. They like Arenados. They like other players from the past, McGuire, Pujols that are fan friendly, and they're not going to start something unless you provoke them type deal. They don't like the guy who's going to go out there and bully. So I don't know if this is going to be a shtick that's going to work there in St. Louis. He's tried it. I mean, even in if you remember when they took the lead briefly, I believe in Game 3 against the Angels, Contreras was talking crap to the pitcher and then also yelling back at his dugout, showing off. He showed off the other day in Wrigley, at second after he drove in a run or two. So the guy is pretty damn cocky, and that's what you get with him. But again, I think he's trying to do a little bit more here with St. Louis to get a little bit more noticed because again, he's following a freaking Hall of Famer.
Yeah, so that's something to look forward to. They play their next game tomorrow. I believe it's a day game. One more really game to mention on Monday. It was the Rangers taking on the Mariners, first game of that series there. And Logan Gilbert had a no-hitter or perfect game going through 6. And he went to the 7th and gave it up. And then somehow John Gray went with him with Texas. And ultimately got the win 2-1 over Seattle there up in the great Northwest. It was a great pitchers duel. But again, like you mentioned yesterday, man, we can't get any help. Even though we win, the Angels win, the Mariners can't help us. The Rangers can't help us by winning. And it just shows you, and then all the talk about the Rangers and what we saw. I mean, it was amazing as, recap that series we went to. Man, Friday they showed a little bit of their offense, but then Saturday and Sunday they showed the power that they have. And then Saturday with Nathan Eovaldi, he, with 8 innings, only gave up 5 hits, no runs. He was amazing. So I think the big question for you, and I know we've been back and forth on this, um, is this sustainable for Texas to continue to be who they are right now, or will they drop off? And I wanted to know this answer for a while, but ever since we saw them play this weekend, has your opinion changed about Texas, or do you still think they'll peter out as the season goes on?
I'm still sticking with my original statement as far as they're going to peter out, but I do think they're a little more scary than we give them credit for. I'm not sold on their bullpen, so it's not like they impress me or anything else like that, but I know that's fixable in the trade deadline if they're still contending, which would be scary. But injuries to Seager, the greatest hitter of all time, Jason DeGrom going down on the IL as usual is making me think that, yeah, this is going to work out the way I thought it was, because I don't think this is Seager's first and only time on the IL. I don't think this is DeGrom's first and only time. And I'm hoping to see starts from Eovaldi like we saw last year and the year before where he sucked, not these 8-inning gems. And then the same thing with your Andrew Heaney's. I want to start to see him suck at some point. John Gray, he's been up and down in his career where he's either really good or really bad. They took chances on these guys. And a guy that I thought that was going to pitch really good was Perez on Sunday, and the Angels ate him alive. So, again, had they not scored 2 touchdowns for him, we probably would have beat him in that game. I'm still, the jury's still out for me, but if you had to tell me, hey, man, a gun to your head, you got to make a decision, it's going to be that they're going to peter out. I still don't see this being sustainable. I still give a little bit more credit than maybe I should to Seattle to come back and take that role of third or second place in the division. And I still think in the end, and when the smoke clears, as good as they put together a roster to compete this year, they're just 1 year away. And I think Bochy will have this team turned around with a full off season. And next year, they're going to be a major pain in our ass.
Yeah. So let's look through the standings real quick, and then the series of note through this week. So the Rangers are in first place, of course, with a 2-game lead over the Angels. The Mariners are 4.5 back, along with the Astros, and the A's, unfortunately, are 8-28, and they have a situation going on. Their ownership, where they may not be ready to get to Vegas yet. There's something going on with the city of Las Vegas, or that area, I should say, where they were not briefed on the plans, and that could hold up the process of the moving of the team. It goes to show you how bad the Oakland A's brass really is. I mean, imagine announcing they're going to leave and then just going through it without having the okay. That's what's going on. That's the news I got from my A's friend who works for the A's as an usher. He doesn't have to do much. He just stands there and just watches all the green seats.
Well, they actually fall apart. If you saw that video by the Blue Jay guy, he goes to take his seat and the thing fell apart. And then he's like, "Can I get another seat?" They're like, "No." And it's like, well,
oh, that's right. I did see that.
Choose from the other 1,000 empty seats around you.
So, in the AL Central, the Twins, which I thought are a surprise. I didn't see them doing well. They have a 2.5-game lead over Cleveland. The Tigers have dropped. They're 3 games back. And everybody but the Twins are under 500, by the way. The White Sox, as disappointing as they are, they've had so many issues. Guys not hustling. The manager always getting ejected at odd times. They need a revampment of some sort. They really do. And then the Royals, they might have the worst hitting average team of all time. They're 9.5 back already. Looking at the AL East, and certainly the best division so far, the Rays are ahead of everyone. The Orioles are 5.5 back in second. The Blue Jays are 7 games out. The Red Sox are 7.5 out, and the Yankees are 9.5 out to start. The Blue Jays and Red Sox. You talk about one team that's been fun to watch. The Red Sox. They won 8 straight. They did lose Sunday, but they were able to sweep a Blue Jays team at Fenway that is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you see this AL East ending up at the end of the season? Are there all 3 wild cards coming out of that division, or do you see an AL West team getting a wild card spot possibly?
As it stands, I thought that was going to be our biggest competition outside of Seattle. I didn't count any of the Central teams. I believe Ohio is what we thought they were. They're going to slip some more. Twins are going to be something like making the postseason, maybe with 89 to 90 wins. Detroit, Chicago, and Kansas City are a laugher, just like Oakland is. But the AL East, like you said, I mean, it's going to be competitive. The Yankees aren't going to stay in 5th. There's going to be some flip-flopping there between them and Boston. I predicted in the beginning of the season, I thought Toronto, Baltimore, then Tampa Bay would be your top 3. Then it would be Yankees, Boston to finish out the division, with the 2 wild cards coming from the AL East. Angels getting snuffed at the end, or possibly getting the last wild card if one of those teams they could beat in the AL East. But the way it's going right now, it's actually backwards. Tampa's off to that really hot start. Then you got Baltimore right behind them. Then Toronto. At some point, one of these teams is going to go under 500. If I had to bet on one, it's Boston. I think they got into a good little groove, but I don't think they could sustain it. The cream will rise to the top. I am shocked with the Yankees roster and how, when we played them, how banged up they were, how much they didn't have those premier depth players from the minor leagues just balling out like they normally do. So Yankees look like they have some problems this year. And so maybe it won't be their year. But you're definite if you're an Angels fan, you're outside of not winning the division, your competition is going to be solely from the East.
Yeah, that's right. The Yankees, they've had so many injury problems since the start of the season. A laundry list or a Walgreens receipt list of injuries. They did get Aaron Judge back, I believe, yesterday, but then they lost a player that same night. So it's just odd how it goes. And of course, for me, I was wrong on the Rays. I said, "Oh, I think they'll drop a tad this year," and no, it's a complete opposite, of course. National League East. In the National League, again, we mentioned the Braves. They're already 7.5 ahead of the Marlins and the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
The Phillies are 8 back. They just got Bryce Harper. And the Nationals, as gritty as they were against the Angels, they're going to struggle. They had they're 9 games back in last. And I like what you said about the Braves. They've been able to get all this talent, some homegrown, some via trades, but not much free agency. The Mets, on the other hand, they've spent and they've got whatever they needed. But we saw Max Scherzer just go down again after in the start. And that seems to be a theme, just like DeGrom. And then Verlander, he did make a first start last week, but he's getting older, though. They have all these 39, 40-year-old pitchers. Bassett, excuse me, is really – no, not Bassett, but they lost Bassett to the Blue Jays. And they really needed him, honestly. But, the Braves, they have an abundance of talent. They have a bullpen that's awesome. Iglesias, of course, does better somewhere else. And they have a 7.5 game lead.
Don't forget Chavez, Mr. DFA for the Angels.
That's right. Whenever he goes, like you said, whenever he goes back to Cobb County, Georgia, he thrives.
Yeah, he can't thrive in his own hometown. But real quick, what I want to say about Atlanta is talk about 2 organizations that are completely opposite. The Mets go out there, like you say, and make it their paper champs. They look, their roster looks great up and down, but then you look at Atlanta and they have 4 superstars that they're paying $100 million, but they've signed long-term deals, $100 to $150 million, and they like it there. And there's a reason why Atlanta can thrive. And had his agent not screwed him, you'd still have Freddie Freeman there, but it's okay. You got Olsen. And so there's a reason why these guys aren't asking for $300 million to play there, number one. And number two, they put together just a smart roster every year and making these deals, whether you think the Angels won that deal with Iglesias or whether they lost it, they're making smart moves and it works. They have really good coaching. So that's a well-run organization from top to bottom. And we could sit here as Angel fans because we're going to say, hey, man, we don't like Artie Moreno. We wish we had an owner like Steve Cohen, but do we really? Because, yeah, it's easy for an owner to spend, but do you spend right? And right now, if you had to look at it right now, the Braves ownership, whoever they are, because I don't know them that much because they're not in the news like Cohen is all the time. He's not social media butterfly. I'd have to give it the thumbs up to the Braves right now. And I did, and I've done that last year too, when they came back and won the division, or and so they're a class organization from top to bottom, and my hat goes off to them. And the Mets, it's like, man, they always want it. It seems like they're just going for the shiny toys all the time, and those don't get you championships all the time. Hello?
Yeah, okay. Sorry. There was a phone call, but
Oh.
I got rid of it. Stupid Ace fan. I'm sorry. Were you done with your point
Yeah.
on the Braves?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So yeah, that's been amazing. Like I said, with the Mets, like you said, they go out and get whatever, but that's been a thing for them for years. I remember the collapses and a couple decades ago. Seems like they had a lot of talent, a lot of free agent stuff. But let's go to the end of Central real quick because it's when you think about it, it's a two-team race right now. The Brewers lead the Pirates by percentage points for first place. The Pirates are surprising a lot of people, although they did struggle against the Rays and St. Petersburg, but a lot of teams have. The Cubs are a game below 500, but they're 3 games back. The Reds are 5 games under 500, and they're 5 games back. I don't know how. Uh, their owner, you're talking about owners, their owner said, hey, we're not spending much. We still want you to come out. If you come out, you're loyal and just shut up and come out, basically. And the attendance has been awful there at Great American Ballpark. I mean, everybody hates that guy. And then for the Cardinals being 12 games under 500 and 8 games back, 8.5 games back is certainly a surprise. But you mentioned, not having Yadier Molina there for the first year and since 2004 he came up, and yeah, Wainwright, but he's not as good. You have a rotation that should be good, but we saw with Jack Flaherty, he got ate up by the Angels offense. That was odd to see. And when I was doing the pregame show of that, when I was looking up his stats, I said, well, that's not the Jack Flaherty I would know and see in the past. So the Cardinals, even though they have Arenado, they have Goldsmith, they have a good nucleus. That second year manager there, he's been having difficulty putting it all together. He certainly gets thrown out a lot. I notice he does stand up for the players. I think he told CB Buckner last year in Arizona basically to retire. And ever since then, it seems like all the umpires have gone against the young manager there for St. Louis. But what do you think is the problem with the Cardinals?
I think a loss of leadership, talent-wise. That some of their prospects who are always can't miss there in St. Louis and making their imprint on the organization aren't making their imprint like they normally would, and so they've lost in a lot of categories recently. So the Cardinals have been due for a downward spiral, and I guess this is the year it actually comes to fruition.
Yeah, and then one thing it was odd to hear, by the way, the manager is Oliver Marmol, is in his second season there. Bluebirds for the Redbirds. I don't think I've ever heard that, and it's their worst start in 50 years. So I guess it's warranted because they've been used to great baseball. Always heard they have the best fans there in St. Louis, the most knowledgeable. They always give the standing ovations for the players that come back to St. Louis as an opponent. So odd times there. Wes, quickly with the Dodgers, they're a half game up on the Diamondbacks. They are 5 games above 500. The Padres are a game above. They're struggling, but they're trying to get back at 2.5. The Giants at 15-19, 5 games back, you would have figured that. And then the Rockies, 7 games under and 6.5 back. I hope this stays a 3-team race to the finish, but maybe the Diamondbacks will peter out and the Padres will find a way to get back into it in the division. But it always seems like it's a Dodger division. And they showed it this last weekend down in San Diego. Both teams didn't score so much, but their pitching got it done for the Dodgers. Mookie Betts came up clutch in that Sunday game. They led a ninth inning rally and they took the series. After Friday, Tatis Jr. hit a couple home runs. Saturday was a 2-1 win against the Dodgers over the Padres. And then yesterday was all Dodgers. So how do you think the NL West will shape up?
I think in the end, I picked San Diego to win the division. I think they're starting slow. There's a few guys on this team that are going to get it going, and San Diego's got way better talent. I believe the Dodgers are beatable this year. They're beatable because they don't have, again, Walker Buehler for the whole year. Clayton Kershaw right now is your best pitcher. How long will that happen? Because we all know he has back injuries and he has to sit out starts. Urinal Cake, aka Urias, piece of crap in my mind, is not pitching really good. His ERA is kind of high. He won 20 games somehow last year. He had one of the best. Whatever Patrick Sandoval didn't get, he got last year, and he was able to rack up a lot of easy victories. And he didn't have to pitch all that great. So I think he led the National League with wins. Day's not impressive. Their bullpen is not impressive. They'll win on certain nights, but for the most part, they're hittable. And, Chris Taylor's not living up to that contract. He's batting under 200, although he has a few home runs. Muncy just went out with an injury. They don't have that scary first baseman like Cody Bellinger, although, Freeman's okay. He's starting to tail off a little bit. They still got Will Smith. So they do have a formidable team. But if you put that to San Diego and San Diego hits on all cylinders, to me, there's no need to think that San Diego can't win this division. Now, they have to play the game, so I'm not saying it's a done deal. But I think in my mind, the cream will rise to the top, and at some point, the Dodgers will have some injuries outside of, the normal guys. Like Betts will be there all year. But I believe San Diego is going to wind up taking them out.
And my last thought really of this show, I always see your backdrop. It was the plan of the new stadium that was going to happen or the new project. And I'm
Correct.
thinking like, man, that's never going to happen now. So every time I see that in the background, I think, oh, what could have been?
It looks pretty, doesn't it?
Yeah, but where would everybody park?
On the picture right there, it doesn't really show it. You're right. I mean, unless those high risers are
structures.
Yeah, because if how you go to Chicago and they have those two big ass parking structures like circular things, unless there's something like that, because I don't know where the hell you'd park right here. I mean, it just doesn't show anywhere. I mean, the parking lot's pretty much eaten up. You have like almost like a central park in the middle, a baseball field to play around. Yeah, I wouldn't know where the hell you'd put the parking. You can't park them in the riverbed. Yeah, I mean, who knows? But yeah, that's definitely a pipe dream for sure. That's never gonna happen. But I just like it because it is a pretty ass picture.
Yeah. Whatever. I don't know. I keep thinking about that. I'm like, every time I watch a show with y'all, I'm like, oh. Anyway, it's been great. Around the League show. I think this was episode 6 of the series so far, or 5, I should say.
5 or 6.
Hopefully,
something like that.
Yeah. Hopefully, JT will come back and join Todd, and maybe I can get on here. But it's been fun. Of course, Todd. We always talk about baseball and other things. But hey, I was happy to be here tonight with you and all the people that will watch, and then of course check out Todd Fox and his post game show. Me, the pregame show with James. I'll be on YouTube, maybe simulcast it as well on Instagram to get the people over for those who watch. Check out, of course, the Heedy podcast with Todd, Fernando, and Courtney. She'll make her stops by and keep it real. I always love that. questions of the Dominic, yeah, Dominic as well. They did one just recapping the Texas series.
Correct.
And they had a lot to get to. And we experienced that live, and we gotta somehow get that out of our heads. Again, the first game went to the Angels. Second game here is no score in the top of the second. As we're talking about this, but thank you for having me on, Todd, on the Around the League show on Halos in the Infield. And don't forget to go to 714 Tickets. I actually referenced a friend today who's at this game here on this night on Tuesday, and he's sitting at 223 row D, and he had a great price. And I told him, put in that code HEDY 10%. Bada boom, could win a Halos jersey, and then just give it to me. If you win the little contest we got going on, courtesy of 714 Tickets and Halos in the Infield. But I think we'll end it here. Again, Todd, thank you for having me on. Everyone take care and follow Heedy on all the social medias and all the podcast mediums.